two sections, lesson 2.7, solving proportions, and lesson 2.9, solving percents. Everything we talk about today is a review, so just follow along. You will have notes to go with this, so just follow along. Please hit the pause button to get caught up. You can rewind and all that fun stuff. So this is Miss Mays, and I've got Miss Weisenborn with me today too. We're going to walk you through this. I hope you guys enjoy it. Let's get started. Okay. What you see on the screen are three examples. They kind of look familiar to each other. They are dealing with fractions. You love those, we know that. So let's talk about number one. Number one is a fraction 2/3 being multiplied to 4/5. So just a reminder of what we do when we are multiplying fractions. When we multiply fractions, you multiply the numerators together. So 2 times 4 would be your numerator. That gives you a total of 8. Then you multiply the denominators. 3 times 5 gives you a total of 15. If that can be reduced, we go ahead and reduce that, but those don't reduce, so that would be our final answer. Just keep in mind when fractions are multiplied together, you multiply the numerators and you multiply the denominators to get your answer. All right, the example number 2. Same problem, however, inside, between the two fractions, you see a division sign. So in order to divide fractions, we have a little saying that we like to do. We keep the first one the same, we change division to multiplication, and then we flip the second one or create its reciprocal. And then now what we see is 2 times 5 is your numerator, just like before. We get 10, and 3 times 4 on our denominator, we get 12. Now that can be reduced. Those are both divisible by 2, so we end up with 5/6. All right, so just a refresher of how to multiply two fractions and how to divide two fractions. Different processes, different answers, different types of problems. So the third example is what we're going to do today. The third example is when you actually see the fractions, however, in between them there is an equal sign. We call this a proportion. A proportion is when two fractions equal each other. So this is actually solved different from number 1 and 2 because that was multiplying fractions and dividing fractions. So now we have fractions equal to each other. All right, so just something to look out for. And again, you have done this before, but just something to look out for. If you look at the number on the top, the 2, and the number on the bottom of the other one, the 6. All right, the 2 times the 6, we're able to, if we're able to kind of get a lasso and put around that, we get 2 times 6, that's going to give us 12, okay? Now, if we do the same thing, if we lasso, put like a little ring around the other 2, the 3 and the 4, one top, one bottom, 3 times 4 is 12. And you'll notice that we got 12 both times when we multiplied those numbers together. So we're going to use that idea to help us today. All right, so let's get out that worksheet. Here we go. All right, your first problem on your worksheet today says, what is the solution of the proportion? And you have x over 7 equals 4/5. So it's not a bad idea to write that problem down just so we can get started and work on it. Now, we just talked on the last screen about how we can make those little lassos and those little loops. So we're going to loop those together. And what happens when we multiply x times 5? That's right, guys. You get 5x equals, and we're going to lasso the other 2 together. Woohoo! Like the rodeo. 7 times 4 is 28. Okay, now, this looks familiar. We've been solving equations for the last several weeks. So how do we solve this? That's right. You divide both sides by 5. The 5s will cancel and give you 1x equals 28/5. Now, you can go ahead and leave that in fraction form. 28/5 is the correct answer. You cannot reduce that. They don't have anything in common. So you can just leave it 28/5. All right, you could turn that into a decimal if you had a calculator, but that's not needed. We can just leave it right there. All right, let's take a look at the next problem. What is the solution of the proportion y over 3 equals 3/5? Again, We write it down so we have somewhere good to work with, and we create our little lassos. So we're going to multiply those two numbers together. The 5 times the y is 5y, and it's going to equal what we get when we multiply the other two numbers together, the 3 and the 3. Now that's 9. And again, we're back in the same boat. We're going to divide both sides by 5. And y equals 9 over 5. And you can just leave it that way. Those don't reduce. Okay, looking good, guys. Pause the video anytime if we're moving too fast. So let's go ahead and kick this up a notch. We still have a proportion, n over 5 equals 2n plus 4 over 6. Now we're going to solve this the exact same way. We're going to get out our lassos, and we're going to loop these guys together. All right, that is 6 times n. We put our equal sign. We're going to lasso the other two. Now, I want you to be really careful here and write it out. You're doing 5 times that 2n plus 4. And notice that we wrote it out. 5, then the parentheses to gather those together. So we keep those separate, okay? Now, that looks familiar. What property are we going to use here? That's right. We're going to use the distributive property. Woo-hoo. Okay, so let's take a look. On the left-hand side, we have 6n. There's nothing we can do with that, so that's going to stay 6n. Equals. Now we're going to multiply using distributive property. So 5 times 2n and 5 times 4. So we get 10n plus 20. Now our goal is the same as it's been for the last couple weeks. We're going to get those n's together. So we're going to subtract 10n from both sides. That leaves you with negative 4n equals 20. We're going to divide both sides by negative 4. And we are going to get n equals a negative 5. Remember, a positive divided by a negative is a negative. All right? Good job, guys. Okay? Same problem. We're going to write it out. We're going to get out our lassos, and we're going to work on creating what numbers to multiply together. Now we've got 5 times x minus 1, and we've captured that in parentheses. And that's going to equal the other lasso, 2 times x minus 4. Now you'll notice we have the distributive property now, but we're going to have it on both sides. So we distribute the 5, we get 5 times x, 5x minus 5. On the right side, we get 2x minus 8. Make sure you distribute it to everybody. All right, and here's a problem where variables on both sides. So we're going to subtract 2x from both sides. That leaves you with 3x minus 5 equals a negative 8. Make sure you bring that negative sign down. Now we're going to add 5 to both sides. All right, and we're going to shift over, give us a little more room. You guys keep working down the page, but life is good. We get 3x equals negative 3. We divide by 3, and x is negative 1. Okay? Good job, guys. Y'all are doing a really good job. Remember, if we're moving too fast, please hit pause and rewind. This is all on your pace. Okay, so let's take a look at a problem that you may encounter. An 8-ounce can of orange juice contains about 97 milligrams of vitamin C. About how many milligrams of vitamin C are there in a 12-ounce can of orange juice? Now, because this is the same kind of orange juice, if they make the can from an 8-ounce can to a larger can, a 12-ounce can, everything will still be proportional. All right, they will have the same ratio. All right, a ratio is just a fraction. So the company, the orange juice company, is just going to try to make it the same, just put it in a bigger jar. So we're going to be able to create a proportion. All right, now the important thing with proportions is that you stay consistent. So on the left-hand side, if I talk about the size of the can and the amount of vitamin C, then I just need to be consistent and do that on the right-hand side. So the first one, an 8-ounce can. So we're going to put the 8 ounces on the top, the size of the can, being divided by how many milligrams of vitamin C. So on the bottom of that fraction, it's 97 milligrams of vitamin C. So notice the way we're organized. We have the ounces on the top, the milligrams of vitamin C on the bottom. So to create the other one, we just have to be consistent. How many ounces are there? Well, it's a 12-ounce can. So we know that, so we put the 12 ounces on the top with the ounces. On the bottom is where the vitamin C goes. Now, we don't know that. It says how many, so that's when we put the X there. So now we have, and you can clean it up just a little bit, but it looks like two fractions. 8 over 97 equals 12 over X. Okay? Now, if you need to rewind that to make sure you understand where we put everything, but just be consistent. Okay, we're going to solve it just like we've done everything else. We're going to lasso 8x equals, and we're going to lasso, we have 12 times 97. Well, 12 times 97 is 1,164. Now, we're going to divide both sides. We're going to divide that by 8. And we get, and you can use your calculator here, 145.5. Now, let's figure out what our units are. The X was down below, and that's where we had the milligrams of vitamin C. So we know our answer is going to be 145.5 milligrams of vitamin C for that 12-ounce can. Good job, guys. We are rocking and rolling. Okay, so let's take another look. All right, a music question. It says a band went to a recording studio and recorded 4 songs in 3 hours. Now, if they kept up that pace, okay, it says how long would it take the band to record 9 songs if they recorded at the same rate? So again, we want to be consistent, all right? We know they recorded 4 songs in 3 hours. So if we put the songs on the top and the amount of time on the bottom, we would get 4 songs over 3 hours. Now, just be consistent. They recorded 9 songs, and we're trying to figure out how many hours. So we would, again, set it up. Songs on the top, hours on the bottom. All right, so we should be ready to go. 4 over 3 equals 9 over x. We would cross multiply. 4x equals 7. Sorry about that. And we would divide both sides by 4, and 27 divided by 4 is 6.75. Now, because this is a question about this band, you want to kind of think, you can interpret your answer a little bit differently if you'd like, but it says how long would it take the band to record 9 songs? So it would take the band 6 hours and then 0.75 of another hour, okay? Well, if you think about money, that would be 3 out of 4 quarters. So we're talking about 6 hours and then 3 out of 4 parts. So every hour is chunked up into 15 minutes. So if we have 3 of those 15 minutes, it would take 3 hours and 45 minutes. So it took them 3 hours and 45 minutes to make those 9 songs. Okay? Looking good, guys. All right. Now, we're going to move into percentages. So, okay. So we're going to move on to percentages. All right, so let's talk about percents. We're in lesson 2.9. If you need a break, hit pause and get caught up on your notes from 2.7 and start the video back when you're ready. So let's talk about percentages. All right, we love to shop, everyone does. So let's talk about these percentages. They're real important. All right, what percent of 54 is 36? So we're going to really take a look at the words that we see in this sentence. We talked at the beginning, actually like the first day or 2 of class, about what all these words mean. Okay, when we don't know something in math, they'll say what or how. We know those words indicate that we need to use a variable of some sort. The word of means multiplication, and the word is means equals. So if you look at this sentence, it's kind of getting us set up to write out a math equation. So what percent? What percent we would put your variable? X would be fine for a variable. Of means to multiply. So it says what percent of. So we're going to put that multiplication symbol. 54 is the number we see next. So we put 54. The word is comes next. That's an equal sign, and then that equals 36. So if you look right now, this looks like a pretty simple equation to solve. Some number times 54 equals 36. So if you don't like the way that's written, you can rewrite that as 54 times x equals 36. So we're a little bit more used to seeing it that way. So in order to solve for x, we would take 36, we would divide that by 54, and we would get x to equal 0.66666, a bunch of sixes, and then a 7. All right, so let's talk about percentages here. All right, it says what percent of 54 is 36, and we got 0.666 and repeating. So in order to answer this in the correct way, we would want to move the decimal 2 spots over. So you should remember percentages have been moved. The decimal, we move them 2 spots over, which will give us a 66.6 repeating percent. So 66.6, you can put a little top on that if you want, and then you want to probably put that percents on there so we know what that is. All right, you're welcome to round that too. If you wanted to say 66.7, that would be a nice approximation. All right, so we're just really using the clues here to figure out how to write the equation. Let's take another look. All right, the next one says, what is 32% of 5? So let's take a look at what all those mean. The what is your variable, that's your x. Is means equals 32%. Now let's talk about that. 32% is written with the decimal behind the 2. We don't see it, but that's where we know it is. And then we're going to shift it 2 spots forward. So that ends up being 0.32. Of means to multiply by 5. So x equals 0.32 times 5. In your calculator, that will give you x to be 1.6. All right. A boat that normally costs $17,532 is on sale for 30% off. Sounds like a good deal. How much would you save? And it says, how much is the cost of the boat after you take the 30% off? All right, so let's take a look and let's maybe try to write a sentence that we just saw in the last one. We want to know how much money we're going to save. So we would say, what is 30% of 17,532? All right, so that's our job. That's our goal. We're trying to figure out how much, what, that's our variable, is equals 30%. That's 0.30 times, that's your of, 17,532. So we're going to just figure out x equals 0.3 times 17532. That gives me 5,259.6. So we're talking about money here. So we're going to save a little bit. It says, how much do you save? We're going to save a little over $5,200. All right, good. It sounds like a good sale to me. Now, the second question says, how much is the cost of the boat after you take 30% off? Well, the original cost of the boat was $17,532. So we're going to subtract from that $5,259.60. Once we do that, we get a remainder, a leftover amount of $12,272.40. So that's how much this boat will cost us after the discount. So let's take a look again. We like it when it's written out with these sentences because everything has a meaning. 17%, that's your 0.17 of multiply. What number is your variable? I see the word is. There's my equal sign, 34. So we're going to write it out. 0.17 times x equals 34. We clean it up so we know what we're doing here. We're going to divide both sides by 0.17. We get 34 divided by 0.17 is 200. So our answer is 200. All right, so let's take a quick look back and see how to make sure we know how to change all these percentages into their decimal equivalent. So 1%. Now that 1 has a 0. We can put as many zeros as we want in front of it. And we know that the 1 has a decimal behind it, directly behind it. Now we never see that, but that's where we know that it is. So we're going to move it 2 spots to the left, and we end up with 0.01. So 1% is 0.01. 5%. See if you can try that on your own. You know you're going to move it 2 spots over. All right, what do you think you get? 0.05 is correct. Now, the 10%. 10%, that 10 has that decimal right in the back. Move it 2 spots to the left. We get 0.1 or 0.10. Now, please take a look at the difference between 1% and 10%, okay? That's very important, all right? 1% was 0.01 and 10% was 0.1, so be careful there. All right, so let's follow this pattern. 20%, we've moved the decimal 2 spots to the left, we get 0.2. 25% is, we're going to move it 2 spots to the left and get 0.25. 30%, 0.3 or 0.30. 50, 0.50 or 0.5, and 75%, 0.75. Well, 100, let's take a look. 2 spots to the left, we end up with 1 or 1.0 if you want to really see that decimal spot there. You're welcome to do that. Okay, make sure your notes are all good. All right, so let's take a look at what goes on here. All right, we'll rewrite this so you can see it a little better. We have 3 over 2 equals n over 6. Now, guys, what I need you to do right now is get out your worksheet page. It is the worksheet 2.7 right out of your workbook. So we're going to work on some of these right out of your workbook page. We're going to do some with you, and then we're going to let you do some on your own. So here we go. Let's take a look at number 1. Please just ignore the directions. We want you guys to solve these just the way that we have been looking at them before. Okay? So let's take a look at the first one. We want to solve this by creating those little cross loops. So we get 2n equals, and then we're going to do the other side as well. And we would get 2n equals 18. We would divide both sides by 2, and n is 9. Moving on to number 2. Again, we're going to create our little lassos. 3 times 1. 3 times 1 is 3. 5 times t is 5t. We divide by 5, and we get 3/5 equals t. And you can rewrite that using the symmetric property as t equals 3 over 5. Number 3, lasso. 9g equals, lasso it up, we get 30. Technical difficulties. Sorry guys, we got this. 9g equals 30, divide by 9, and we get 30 over 9. Now guys, 30 over 9, we can reduce that. 30 divided by 3 is 10. 9 divided by 3 is 3, so we get 10 over 3 in reduced form. All right, so you're going to want to pause the video, or you can go ahead and take a look at we're going to move on to number 20, but you're going to want to finish this worksheet at some point. So do what you want. We're going to move on to number 20. If you need to pause the video and get started on some of those, you can, but let's take a look at 20. All right, number 20, Eric is planning to bake approximately 305 cookies. It says if 3 pounds of cookie dough makes 96 cookies, how many pounds of cookie dough should he make? All right, so we just need to get organized. All right, we are solving proportions here. So if we know we have 3 pounds of cookie dough, and that's going to make 96 cookies, okay? 3 pounds of cookie dough makes 96 cookies. just so you guys know, because I know it looks a little confusing, but this right here is a pound symbol, and it's not 31. So we're just making sure you understand the 31. That's 3 pounds. Looks great. All right, moving on. How many pounds? Well, the pounds are on the top, so we're going to put an X there. And it's going to make, he wants to make 305 cookies. So we got to figure out, he's at Kroger. Let's figure out how many cookies, pounds of cookie dough he needs to buy here. So let's clean this up a little bit. We got 3 over 96 equals X over 305. We're going to get out our lassos and start multiplying. 96 times X is 96X. 305 times 3 is 915. Looking good. We divide by 96 at this point. You guys are on autopilot. We know what to do here. 915 divided by 96 is 9.53125. All right, so we know if we go to the store, we gotta buy more than 9 pounds because it's about 9.5 pounds. So we're probably gonna have to buy 10 pounds of cookie dough. All right, that's what we need to do in order to make sure we have enough. All right. Sounds great. You might burn a couple, so having that extra a little bit of poundage won't hurt. All right, moving on. I'm going to take a look at number 22. These problems are just a little bit more challenging, but we know what to do here. Number 22 is n plus 4 over negative 6 equals 8 over 2. We're going to cross multiply. So we have 2 times n plus 4. Make sure we put those in parentheses there. We love that. Equals 8 times negative 6. 8 times negative 6 is negative 48. We're going to use the distributive property. We're going to get 2n plus 8 equals negative 48. We're going to subtract 8 from both sides, and we get 48 minus 8. We get a negative 56. Divide both sides by 2, and we get n to be negative 28. Let's take a look at number 23. 10 over 4 equals z minus 8 over 6. Let's get our lassos together. We get, there we go, so it's 4 times, or 16, yeah, 10 times 16 is 160, 4 times z minus 8. Excellent. 160 is going to equal 4z minus 32. We're going to add 32 to both sides, and we get 192 equals 4z. We're going to divide by 4, and we get z to be 48. Let's take a look at 25 and 26. 25, we have x minus 3 over 3. And we go ahead and set it up. So we're going to cross multiply. We've got 4 times x minus 3 equals 3 times x plus 4. We're going to use the distributive property on both sides. So we get 4x minus 12 equals 3x plus 12. Now, we're going to subtract 3x from both sides. We get x minus 12 equals 12. We're going to add 12 to both sides, and we get x to be 24. Moving on to number 26. We're going to create our little lassos and get multiplying here. 3 times n plus 4, and 4 times n plus 1. Distribute 3n plus 12 equals 4n plus 4. Alright, and we can subtract, let's just grab the smaller n. So we'll subtract 3n from both sides. That gives us 12 equals n plus 4. Subtract 4 from both sides. We get 8 equals n, or n equals 8. Alright, so now you're going to remove your worksheet page for lesson 2.9. Alright, so let's take a look at numbers 1 and 2. Number 1, again, what percent of 42 is 28? What percent? X. of 42 times 42 is equals 28. So let's put it together. What percent x of times 42 is equals 28. That gives me 42 times x is 28. Divide both sides by 42, and we get x to be 0.6 repeating. 0.666, we've seen this before. All right, it's asking us for the percentage. So we would move that decimal spot 2 places to the right, and our answer is 66.6%, or we could round it to 66.7% if you'd like. Number 2, what percent of 48 is 18? So we know what all those mean now. What percent is your x? Of means to multiply. 48. We have the is means to equal, and 18. So we're just going to write it out just like we see it. That's 48 times x equals 18. Divide both sides by 48, and we get 0.375. Now, it asks us for what percent, so we're going to move that 2 places to the right, and we know that's 37.5%. 37.5%. Doing a great job, guys. All right, let's move on to see what's next. Number 7 and 8, let's take a look. Number 7, what is 75% of 180? So guys, what means to put your variable is equal sign. 75% is your 0.75. Of means multiply, and 180. So this is simple. It's ready to rumble. So we're going to do x equals 0.75 times 180, and we get 135. 135. So that is the amount of 75% of 180. Number 8. What is 40% of 720? So we've got what equals 0.4 times 720, and 0.4 times 720 is 288. We're almost done, guys, and the rest you are going to work on. You are doing a good job. Let's take a look at number 13 and talk about these golf clubs. A set of golf clubs. Number 13, a set of golf clubs that cost $600 are on sale for 40% off the regular price. What is the sale price of the clubs? So we want to write a sentence. What is 40% of $600? Once we write that out, we should be able to identify what to do. What is our variable? Is equals. 40% is 0.4, and 600 is 600. We've got everything ready. So we have 40% of 600, and that gives us 240. Now, let's just take a quick thought about this. It says, what is the sale price of the clubs? Well, guys, the 240 is how much percent they are going to take off for me. So we have to take the $600, and we're going to subtract the amount that they have it on sale for, that 40%, and that leaves me with $360. So I know I'm going to get a $600 set of clubs for only $360. What a deal. Time to hit the golf club courses. All right, number 16 and 17. We are going to stop here. So this is it, guys. Pay attention. We're almost done. 60% of what number is 75. So that's 0.6 of means times. What means x is mean equals. So that's 0.60 times x equals 75. We'll divide both sides by the 0.6, and we get 125. Number 17. So let's turn that in there. There we go, 1.15. We move that decimal 2 spots to the left. Of times what number? X is equals 120. So we have 1.15 times x equals 120. Divide both sides by 1.15, and you get 104.3478, a bunch of stuff. So let's round that. 104.35. Okay, guys and gals, if you could go ahead and finish your workbook page. We want you to finish both 2.7 practice and 2.9 practice. Please refer back to the video for any help. Have a great day, guys. Thanks so much.